Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about something I've seen posted a lot on forums and on YouTube videos across the internet. That is the discussion around painting your own models and whether or not you should pay somebody else to paint or prepare a model for you when it comes to collecting your own army. Now, there are plenty of options that people have available to them, and I'm going to look into as many of those as I possibly can, but bear with me, I may miss one or two. So if you think I have missed any, please let me know in the comments below. If you enjoy this kind of Warhammer 40k content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for plenty more Warhammer 40k content. Let's get into it. Now, the first option you've got is the option that most enthusiasts take, which is to paint your own models yourself. Now, as you'll see on screen, there are a few different models that I've recently painted that I'm going to show you as examples of this. Now, these are older models. They're not from the new ranges. Most of them are about 10 to 15 years old, and they have been painted by me recently as practice for when I come to paint my combat patrol of Custodes, which you'll also see. I didn't want to paint the Custodes in a bad way because I didn't think my skills were up to it. Now, I'll let you be the judge of the models I've already painted. Some of you may think they're okay, some might think they're terrible. But for me personally, I'm getting them to a stage where I'm happy with them. But to put it into perspective, the Terminator Commander and the Orc Nob took me about 3 hours each to paint those models to the standard that you've seen on screen. Now, I'm trying to get these to Warhammer tournament standard, so I'm trying to paint them at least 3 different colours. Now, you can determine whether or not I've done that right on the screen. I'm not actually going to be putting them into tournaments, but I wanted to get them to a level just in case I had to do that at some point in the future. Now, the Dreadnought took me about a day and a half in total just to get it to the point it's at now, and it's not even finished or completed. I haven't done any edge highlighting. I haven't gone over any of the old paintwork that I've painted over that needs touching up. I am simply getting it to a point I'm happy with. Now, with all of that being said, some people just will not have the time to do that. Spending 3 or 4 hours a night painting a single figure from a whole army just isn't feasible for most people. And that probably took me as long as it did because I don't use spray paints for my base layers. I use hand-painted bases. Now, when it comes to painting your own models, please be aware that it will take you some time and practice to get to a level that you see online and in the Games Workshop stores. Those are painted by people who have hours and days and weeks to be able to paint one individual model. Their experience when it comes to painting models is going to be significantly different to someone just starting out. Remember, every single person that's painting these models to such a high standard will have at least a few years of painting behind them before they got to the point that they're at now. It doesn't come overnight and it doesn't come easily. You have to practice and you have to be able to devote the time to doing it. Now, let's say you don't have the time to do this. There are a few options that are open to you when it comes to having models painted. One of those options is you can look to buy pre-painted models from somebody selling them online or perhaps in a specific hobby store. Now, those models are more expensive than the base models based purely and simply on the fact that there's a markup there for somebody else's work being done to both assemble and paint that model. To some people, that's going to be more alluring because you have the finished model and the finished product all together in one package. It's painted to a high standard and you get to decide whether or not that's right for you. Now, if you're not going to go compete at a tournament, there's no requirement to paint your models at all. But if you are going to compete at the tournament, please be aware that they have to be of a certain level and quality. And if you don't think you're quite able to produce that level and quality, you might want to look into going and purchasing a pre-painted model already made for you. That in reality is more of a time-saving exercise than anything else, because as I said, there will be a markup on these models and they will be more expensive. Now, there are some sellers on places like Etsy, eBay, and Facebook where you can go and purchase these pre-made and pre-painted models for a set fee. Now, I'll put the links to these individual sellers and various different stores in the video description so that you can go and find them if you want to look into them a bit more closely. But just as a disclaimer, I'm not being paid by any of them to advertise this. I'm merely going out, looking online, and finding individual groups that I can give an example of. So the particular example I have found is a painted Warlord Titan miniature from the Legio Krytos AT-18 commission. Now, that particular model is £189 to go and purchase pre-painted and fabricated by the seller. Now, that might seem like an awfully expensive model to buy, but when you consider just how big these Titans are, how much time it's going to take to put together, and how much time it would take to paint that model, especially to the standard that's being advertised, it might actually be worth doing. It's entirely up to you. Now, for a Warlord Titan that you're going to go and purchase, put together, and paint yourself, that will cost you about £60. Now, that's £130 less than the cost of buying a prefabricated and painted model. Now, when you consider how long it's going to take to put together a Warlord Titan, that's going to be several days. And that's a very long time to spend putting together a model before you've even considered painting it. Now, for a model like that, at £130 more than the base, some people might sit there and look at it and go, well, it's going to take me several hours to put together. It's going to take me several more hours to paint. I might not even get it to the level that I want. It's actually more cost effective for me to go and buy that model pre-painted and prefabricated than it is for me to buy the base model, build it, and paint it. That's fine. So that's one option. Now, another option is you can go out and you can find a paint studio that you want to paint your models for you. If you enjoy assembling the models but don't enjoy painting them, that might be the answer for you. Now, if you're going to put together your models but you want them painted by somebody else, I've linked a studio below that does this. Now, I have linked below a studio that does offer painting and assembly of models. Now, if you want a standard infantry like an Intercessor or an Eldar Guardian, they will paint this to one of three different standards. They paint to Game Standard, Ornate Standard, and Premium. Now, Ornate Standard and Premium are probably not going to be the ones that you pick if you want to put these into your own games. If you want tournament level painting, those might be where you'd go for it. But again, it depends on your individual model, taste, and preferences. Now, if you want individual models like Intercessors or Eldar painting, that's about 21 to 28 euros per model. And depending on the size of the squads, that could be quite costly to have done. Now, I've got 14 miniatures from my Custodes Combat Patrol. They're going to be a bit more expensive than 21 to 28 euros, primarily because they're slightly bigger models. That might set me back quite a few €100 just to get one squad or one group of miniatures painted. Again, it all depends on whether or not it's worth it to you to have this done. If it's worth it, do it. But you have to be aware of the costs involved in doing this. So as I say, there is always going to be the element of cost with these videos. So as I say, there's always going to be the element of the cost of having these models painted and prepared for you. Now, this is a particularly good option if you don't have the time to assemble and paint your miniatures. All of this, though, does come under one big looming issue, and that's the overall cost of Warhammer at source. I've seen a lot of people online in forums, in various different chat groups, and in YouTube videos discussing the pricing of Games Workshop models. Now, these models can be prohibitively expensive, and they can be very daunting for someone who's just coming into the setting. So to add on top of that, the cost of assembly and painting of a model done for you might deter a lot of people from having it done. But in my mind, if you're not someone who's able to dedicate the time or the resources to painting and assembling your own models, then if you can, it's a feasible way of getting models that look great and are also ready for you to play tabletop matches with. But again, it's not feasible for everybody. And as I've stated before, your models don't have to be painted. If you play in non-tournament play, you can play with grey top models with no issues. My mainstay on this argument then, guys, would be this. Paint your models where you can. If you have the ability, you have the time, and you have the understanding of how much it's going to take, always paint your models. Because it's fun, it's great to be involved in, and it gives you a sense of accomplishment at the end of it. But if you don't have the time for that, whether you've got family life, work life, personal life, whatever it might be, whether it be that you don't particularly want to try painting a model because you're afraid you might ruin it, or whether you just simply can't be bothered with that aspect of the hobby, that's absolutely fine. Pay someone to paint your models for you, but please be aware you need to explore these things before you go down that avenue. It can be costly, and if it's not done to a standard you like, that's a lot of money wasted. But what do you guys think? Pop it down in the comments whether you've paid for somebody else to do your miniatures, whether you make money from painting by commission, or whether you just enjoy the painting side yourself. Let me know what you think. I always love to hear your feedback, guys. And if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe if you're brand new for more Warhammer 40k content, and I'll see you